Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist, nomadcapitalist.com, and the author of the book Nomad Capitalist on Amazon. Now I'm here in Bahrain, which is a very interesting part of the world for citizenship, in that most people in this part of the world cannot hold dual citizenship. I just came from Dubai. If you're Emirati and you obtain another passport, you're going to no longer be Emirati. And so it brings us to an interesting question about the nature of holding more than one passport. Most people grow up thinking that it's not possible. There are this small number of people who maybe have a parent from one place, or they were born in a different place than their citizenship, and so they have dual citizenship, and that seems kind of interesting to a lot of people. But the question that I'm often asked is, can I have more than one or even more than two citizenships? And if so, how many can I have? And the answer is, as things often are, it depends. Different countries have different restrictions, but I'm going to talk in this video about how many citizenships you can actually have. Now, I've made a number of videos over the years here on YouTube where I've talked about the idea of dual citizenship, which countries allow it. I've talked about trends in that I see more and more places in the world being open to their citizens holding dual citizenship. And I've even talked about the misconception that the United States doesn't allow dual citizenship. But people say, well, how many passports can I have? You know, people think, okay, well, fine, two. You have one parent from here, one parent from there. That's got to be it, right? There is no inherent restriction unless your country actually places one. There are a number of countries that say, hey, you can't have more than one, but that can sometimes be complicated. That can mean if you were born here, but then you were naturalized over here, sometimes you can pick at 18, sometimes they don't care. Even countries that restrict dual citizenship oftentimes have a lot of loopholes. What if you are a dual citizen? Well, in many cases, the countries that you're a citizen of don't inherently forbid you to have even more citizenships. There are some countries out there that say, hey, two is the max, or I know of one or two or three is the max. How is that enforced? You know, it's often not enforced. I have heard from my years in Malaysia of people who have 3 passports, one of them being Malaysian, despite the fact that the Malaysian technically doesn't allow dual citizenship. So there's not only an issue of how many can you really have in terms of the legal limits, but what is the enforcement? And so the answer is you can have as many as you want. For example, if you're a U.S. citizen, the U.S. does not restrict dual nationality. And when they don't restrict dual nationality, that means that they always view you as a U.S. citizen. Many countries are the same, but they don't restrict what other passports you may have. Now, we've got other videos here on YouTube that talk about getting citizenship by where you're born, i.e. most American countries, through your parents, through your grandparents. Potentially you can go back and claim it through naturalization, i.e. living somewhere, through doing something for the country, or through outright investing or quote-unquote buying a passport. This is where it gets interesting. There was a story circulating from a gentleman who I have known through our industry. I remember having dinner with him about 4.5 years ago, and he was telling me a story of a guy who he knows who has 8 passports. Many of these were acquired over the years through citizenship by investment programs where this client straight up just donated money to the economies of different Caribbean and European countries. But he also had gone and lived, as I recall correctly, in the UK, and over a period of time, he had amassed 8 different passports. None of these countries had any inherent restriction on him being a citizen in other countries. For example, if you go to St. Lucia and you invest in their citizenship by investment program, they don't care what else you have. They don't care if you keep your existing nationality. They don't care if you keep other nationalities or get other nationalities after theirs. Not their business. It's somewhat transactional, and they don't care. Nor do many Western countries. And I think what people might find interesting is that countries don't say, okay, fine, you can be dual, you can cheat on us, but only with one. They either generally forbid you from having other citizenships, in which case it's a matter of enforcement, or they don't really care. It is theoretically possible that you could go and you could get all 5 of the Caribbean passports that are for sale. You could get Cyprus, you could get Malta, you could be an honorary citizen of Vanuatu. There are fast-track naturalization programs where you can make investments in real estate or bonds in places like Turkey, and there are others that are coming out. I mean, if you had the money and the patience for due diligence and paperwork, in theory you could have 10 or 12 nationalities relatively simply. And if you're in a position where you can contribute something to a country, if you're an athlete, if you're a scientist, if you're an entertainer, there are other places they may want you. There are places where you can go and live and you can become naturalized. There are paper residencies, which we have a video on, which could turn into passports in the future. So someone who just wanted to spend their entire life collecting passports could theoretically be a citizen of a couple of dozen countries. Obviously, eventually you would come to a limit in that most of the developed world countries require you to actually put in time there to be naturalized, i.e. you have to spend 8 or 9 months a year in Canada for 5 years to become Canadian, or the same in the UK or in the US or many other places. So you would eventually be very limited. But it's not because those countries would say, hold on a second, this is getting vulgar. It's merely because of the natural restrictions of time, money, and effort. So the answer is, of course, check your home country's laws. Make sure that you are following the rules. Some cases, your country may want you to report other citizenships you have. Certainly, if you're in a position of the government, that can be a separate issue. We're not talking about government employees or politicians. But the sky is potentially and theoretically the limit. Now, we've got a lot of other videos on dual citizenship, how to obtain other citizenships here on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen those yet, definitely subscribe to our channel. We've got a lot of great stuff from the past and new stuff we're coming out with as citizenship trends change. Also, if you're looking to get your dual citizenship, definitely check out nomadcapitalist.com and all of the resources that we have there as well. And if you haven't read Nomad Capitalist, the book, definitely mosey on over onto Amazon and get your copy, where we open up a lot of these concepts at a 101 level.